Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the CyberGizmo, I'm going to be looking at Tor right after this. Yeah, I did say I was going to delve into this. I hadn't actually wanted to do this, but I'm still waiting on Magia, and that's fine. I'm not going to be in a hurry for it. So let's dive into Tor a little bit and talk about it. I can't cover this whole topic in the amount of time that I want to dedicate to this video, but there's just too much. If you want more information, the Tor project has a very good set of documentation. Now they're in the process of moving off their wiki onto GitLab, so you may have to go and hunt for the more current, because I think they're planning on taking it down at sometime next week on their wikis. So yeah, they're kind of in a transition right now. So what is it? I always have to start with, what is Tor? Tor is an acronym, and it stands for the Onion Router. It was originally developed by the U.S. Office of Naval Research and the U.S. Department of Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA. I believe that work took place in the early 1990s. It went through several iterations, and eventually that code rolled out into the open source world. And the Tor project was launched in 2002 using that open source code. I'm sure they have written quite a bit more of it themselves. And the first public release of the Tor project was in 2003. So in terms of security, it isn't really that old. But Tor is free, it's open source, and it's used for enabling anonymous communication. That's its sole purpose, which, by the way, was the original reason why the U.S. Navy wanted to develop it in the first place. So Tor directs traffic through the internet through an overlay network. So and it's run by volunteers. There's some companies involved, and I'm sure there's some government agencies involved as well. So the odd thing is the U.S. federal government still is the largest funding source for the Tor project, according to them. Not me. That's according to the Tor project. It's comprised of three basic nodes. All three types are randomly chosen by the Tor browser, and they remain the same throughout the session. It doesn't randomly pick new locations. It stays with those three until or unless you either restart your Tor browser, or you press the sweep. There's a little broomstick button that's up on the URL bar that you can press that will reset the Tor connection, and it'll recalculate all of the paths going through. So the first node that you hit or encounter with your packet when you're sending it through the Tor network is the first node, or that's also called the Guardian node. Those nodes are also from the same volunteers and corporations and government entities, I'm sure. Those are chosen by the Tor project for the reliability and their latency. So Tor obviously wants to be as fast as they can possibly be, and that's one of the first places that you would need to get your packet to. That will then each node in the Tor network, they only know the address of the node that was previous to it. They don't know where it's going. Until they unpack the header. So they don't know the endpoint. They don't know where you're going, and ultimately, and the ones in the middle don't know about you. So the farther you get away from you, the less they know about you. The second node is just a regular Tor node, and then the third node is the exit node. That is the one that actually determines where ultimately that packet is destined for, whether that be Google or Netflix or, God forbid, Facebook, but whatever you're going to be sending that off to. So, yeah, and there are special criteria for both the Guardian and the exit node. They both have to be reliable and they have to be low latency, but there are also some special hoops they have to go through. So let's take a look at how it works. When you set up a Tor network, there's an onion connect circuit that is created, right? That circuit consists of the first node, the second, and the third. You know all three. And you also have all of the keys for all three. So you start and you encrypt the packet for all three of them, and you layer them on top of the packet. The Tor browser does this, not you, but it layers them on top of in reverse order. So the third node goes first, then it layers the second on, and then finally the Guardian node gets stuck out last. That's why it's called the onion. That's why it does it. So then the packet goes off to the first Tor node, and it looks at the packet. It strips off the outer ring, the red ring in this case, reads the address of where this is supposed to go, forwards that packet on to the second one without its ring of encryption. Second node sees its encapsulated ring, the yellow ring. It decrypts it. It tears it off and looks at the destination of where it's going to go, and then it forwards that packet on to the exit node. The exit node does the same thing. It sees that there's only one encryption ring left. It decrypts it. It looks at the actual packet and determines where it's going to go. Now, its address is the source address. So, and you did that in the Tor browser. So that address isn't there anymore. Your address is not in that packet. It's been changed. So it will go ahead and ship it off. And as far as the website is concerned, it came from that exit node, not you. So, and then the communication strings that go back just reverse it completely until it gets to you. So, yeah, that's how it works. Also, there was some notes that are on the Tor website that talk about the Guardian and the exit nodes. Apparently, those are chosen for 4 weeks. That you'll get the same ones. Well, that I'm not sure about that. That doesn't sound right to me because whenever I see the circuit list, it changes. All of them change. So I'm not quite sure about that. Maybe what they mean is that maybe I'm just misinterpreting it. Maybe what they mean is that a node is chosen to be a Guardian node for 4 weeks, and then there is a revote and another one. I think that's really what they mean by that. So if you see that, I think that's what they're referring to, and I'm pretty sure that's the right answer. And I'm sure somebody in the comments will say, yep, that's right, or no, that's wrong. But I believe that it's actually that those nodes are chosen for 4 weeks at a time. So, staying anonymous, you probably have read some of the horror stories about people that have used the Tor network for nefarious purposes and gotten caught. Yes, you will get caught. There's just too many ways that you can leak information, and even if you practice the proper OPSEC, we're human, we're going to slip up, it's going to happen, and then game over. So, I mean, it's a dumb idea to use Tor and think you're going to be anonymous and try to commit a crime. I mean, that's just dumb. If you think that, I've got some oceanfront property in Texas. Well, maybe in West Texas, I'd like to sell you. So anyway, the bottom line is don't log into social media sites because obviously they can connect the dots. They know what your real IP address is because you probably signed on there sometime in the past. They can also reconnect all your habits, and then all of a sudden they see you going to the same websites through Tor. Well, I mean, you've lost your anonymity at that point. Also, don't use Tor to visit the same sites while using a normal browser. I don't know why I should have to mention that, but some people do, and that of course will link you because it's the exit, it's the end result, the end site that will say, oh, this is interesting. I just got 2 requests for the same thing from the same site, and I haven't gotten any requests for this information in a couple of weeks, and this is weird. So that must be the same person. And don't modify the extensions for the Tor browser. The whole purpose of the Tor network and the Tor project is to make everyone look the same. If you go customizing your Tor browser, well, you're going to look different, right? And you're going to stand out in the crowd, and you don't want to do that. This is one of those cases where you don't want to stand out in the crowd. There are also 3 settings on the Tor browser which allow you to customize your security settings And I would suggest that you read those very carefully and set them to what you are the most comfortable with, knowing that the less secure it is, the more leakage there is. Okay, so if you want to, like for example, the secure setting will keep your transactions encrypted as it goes through the network, but it doesn't do anything about allowing the system to run JavaScript on your machine. So yeah, that's a problem, right? Unless you're absolutely sure that it's not malware that you're running. The more secure is meant to shut down the JavaScript from non-HTTPS sites because, of course, they have to prove who they are if it's HTTPS, unless they're hijacked sites, in which case you might want to go to most secure, which doesn't allow JavaScript to run at all. So unless you're sure that there's no malware in that JavaScript, well, you might want to go higher in the security settings. Tor works better when more users are using it, because the larger the population of all of us looking the same, the harder it is to pick you out in the crowd, right? So yeah, Tor has about 7,000 nodes, and that came from there's a net status page that's out there that will list all the nodes that are in, whether they're up or down, or whether they're fast or slow. It's kind of interesting. You can look on the website for that. It'll show you that information. There's also a few features with Tor. For example, if you live in a country that bans the use of Tor, now I'm not advocating that you do that. Probably you'll end up in jail if they catch you, or worse. There are special gateways which do allow access to Tor even in countries that have banned it. It may work, it may not, and of course if it doesn't work, then you've exposed yourself, right? So I'm not here to say, oh, that's a great solution, just use that. No, I'm not saying that at all. There's also things that are known as the Onion Network or Onion Services, or you may hear it as hidden services. So these are network services that are provided inside the Tor network via the relay nodes. So you have .onion network, and the .onion network will not exit onto the internet. So, for example, DuckDuckGo has a .onion address. So anytime you're using the .onion address of DuckDuckGo, it stays inside of the Tor network. Nothing goes outside. Your searches don't go outside. So use them if possible, but be careful where you go. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, because of this. The news media generally regards Tor as a crime-ridden network, a place for hackers and law enforcement agencies. So the truth is, and this has been studied several times, in fact, it was just studied last year, 80% of the people who use Tor are just people that are just trying to protect their privacy. So I would suspect that the 20% that are left are probably the crime-ridden, the traffic and hackers and law enforcement agencies. But I suspect that if we ran that same study on the internet, we'd probably come to numbers close to that. I mean, welcome to the real world. It's probably growing too, but in the wrong way. But I suspect that probably is closer to real world facts. It's just, Anyway, Tor cannot keep you completely anonymous. In fact, they say that. I mean, you have to pick up some of this slack and do your own research. And they provide quite a bit of information that will help you on their website. So take your time and go through it. Don't just speed read through it and go, oh, I got it. No, take your time and go through it. The other problem with Tor is if an entity were to gain control of both the entrance node, the guardian node, and the exit node, game over. They know who you are. They know where you're going. So, it would be difficult to do that because of the number of nodes that they have available to them. However, there was a case back, I think it was that was called the Sybil attack. Sybil, if you remember, was a book about mental illness, and Sybil, the Sybil attack was designed to DDoS the exit nodes so that it basically shrank the Tor network down to just a few select nodes, and so your identity was exposed because they could see the traffic flowing out through the same node. They didn't have to guess where it came from. they could find it. The other thing is the Tor can be blocked by some companies. They use the list of known exit nodes to do that. And Tor is not particularly fast because, again, you're using the network connections of the volunteers, and that could be anywhere from less than a megabyte a second up to a full gigabit a second. The other problem is the distances involved between the Tor nodes themselves. So if you're randomly picking them, you don't have the luxury of having them right close together in geographic space. They could be all over the world. So the first one could be in Europe, the second one could be in the US, and the third might be in South America someplace. You don't know where those are going to go. So, and the distances could add on a lot of latency to the communication time, making it look and appear slow. The other weakness is Tor. The Tor project does not and cannot attempt to protect against monitoring of traffic at the boundaries. They don't control it. So I don't know how they would do that, even if they could. Some internet protocols expose your IP address no matter what you do. They'll bounce out of the Tor network, and if you want to know a list of what those are, go read their documentation. They have pretty long lists of things that you can avoid. So I would suggest doing that. I can't list all those here. We'll be here all night. So does that mean we shouldn't use Tor? Well, I have a principle I followed all my life, which is that if I can read it, so can everyone else. It's just a matter of time, effort, and money to be able to crack it. Now it seems I have to add on my camera and my microphone and my mouse and my keyboard and probably soon everything else that sits in between me and it. That's just the world we live in, and it's unacceptable to me. That to me that's close to the book, George Orwell's book, 1984, and that's not a world I want to live in. Maybe you do, I don't. But all security protocols and solutions age from working great to obsolete. There's a curve. And whether Tor is on the upside of that curve or starting to slide down, I don't know. I can't tell you. I haven't done the research to look. So is Tor obsolete? I don't think so. I think it's still viable. The one thing that the Tor project does is kind of interesting, is that they welcome these attacks. They actually do, because they learn from them and then they fix it and they make up workarounds for it. So I don't know if it'll always be 3 Tor nodes. I mean, it might be 4. They could start adding more of them into the middle of the mix to make it even more difficult. That was one of the things that I remember in the original project notes, was that they chose 3 because of the latency. But if they feel like they could push that up, they certainly could. And that would make it even more harder. That would make it even more difficult to do it. So what about the future of Tor and Tor-like solutions? Well, we talked about the future of Tor, and that is the direction they're on right now. They have a new board of directors. They have some very good people on it. They have some people from from like Bruce Schneier, for example, is on there. They have people from the Internet Freedom Frontier, the ETF, I think it is. Yeah. And there's also some other people that have been involved in the Tor project for a while. So I think Tor's going to be fine. There's also some other things that you might want to look at, and that is, I have not looked at these personally. I just heard about them in passing. I knew of some of these, and I learned about one of the other ones during the period during this research. So there's the Invisible Internet Project, or ITP. There's also Freenet. Freenet's been around a while, and Freenet is a peer-to-peer platform dedicated to communications and publishing in a censorship-free environment. So, those two I will have to get back to you on. I haven't done my homework on them. So, Freenet I have never really used. I've read about it a few times, but I've never used it. So what about Kodachi, Tails, and Whonix? What about those? Well, they offer Tor with some additional capabilities and features to help protect your privacy. For example, Kodachi offers a workflow. It's designed for people that are using Linux on a day-to-day basis, and they want to maintain their privacy. So it has a workflow for maintaining that privacy as well as monitoring and keeping things up to date and clear. And also you can make it non-persistent so that you can do your work and presumably you're moving it off your machine onto some other secured platform. But Tails and Kadachi would then be considered disposable at that point. Tails offers something similar, but Tails doesn't go as far as Kadachi does. Tails just is about the browsing experience on the internet, so that part is just totally disposable. Tails does have a persistence layer that you can turn on if you want to save certain settings between sessions, but they tell you up front that's a bad idea. Kadachi will tell you the same thing, that's a bad idea, because you're really returning your environment to what you got now. And you're not thinking about this straight. So Unix, you're not thinking in terms of a secured environment. Unix offers a two-stage version of that, and what Unix is trying to do is to bring protocols that were never intended for Tor to be Torified. That's what Unix does. And then, in the most simplest terms, that is it. That's what Unix offers. Cubes goes a step further. It also has Unix built into it for the anonymization layer, but it is trying to get you to compartmentalize your thinking about how you use your data, how you surf the web, what you use and when you use to surf the web, whether that be for work, for personal, maybe it's for financial, and then maybe there's some things you just don't want to share and you don't want that even out on the network at all. And so Cubes starts to make you think about that, so you compartmentalize your use of your data so you're not exposing the data that you don't want to inadvertently reveal to work, for example, or to maybe the general public about your finances or whatever. But anyway, that's kind of some of the differences and kind of a one thing. My final thought. So the internet was designed long before security was a thing. In fact, logins were just coming into play in the operating systems at the time that the transition took place from ARPANET to internet. So most of the protocols, in fact, all of the TCP/IP protocols were designed so that the headers were never intended to be encrypted. And you'll find that true of email, and I'm talking about Unix messaging originally, and NFS. Those were never meant to be encrypted. And in fact, they don't work well over encrypted channels. And even if you could still are not going to protect the header. So yeah, I know that DNS has a way to do encryption of the DNS protocol, but again, you got the same problem. It knows where it's going. I mean, you can always, and sometimes the destination of a message gives you more information than the message itself. So I would just say that. So I think it's time that we need to think about a redesign. I mean, the internet was designed for a world that no longer exists. And it's quite different today. We're struggling to try to protect our privacy, and we're using a facility that was never designed to do that. So it isn't Tor that's obsolete. It's the internet that's obsolete, and the rest of these things are just trying to make it work. Now, Internet 2 is supposed to address some of this. I don't know when that's going to come, if ever, to us, to the real world. And then when it does come, what compromises will they make in it to allow our privacy to be protected or revealed? I don't know. So with that terrible, terrible note, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video today. Maybe it gave you some food for thought. I really think that there needs to be an open source version of the internet, not one that's controlled by entities that have something to gain or lose by losing their product, which is us. So anyway, that's all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. See you again real soon. Bye for now.